a fresh little baby starting out on your personal branding journey, what are the mistakes? What are the pitfalls? What are the issues? You might even stop yourself from actually doing it. Well, I'm going to tell you what they are, so you can keep them in mind and continue with your personal branding journey anyway. If you're tired of the old cookie-cutter marketing advice and want to take your personal brand to the next level with bold, actionable strategies that truly reflect you, you're in the right place. Let's untangle your marketing mayhem with Zoe, the video confidence coach, on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Unboring Your Brand was recorded on Wadawurrung land. And like always, our podcast episodes start with a question that someone had asked me during a session or during a lead-in conversation or discovery call. I would like to thank Tom for these questions. Essentially we had a conversation and they were starting out their personal branding journey. And of course, as I always like to say, everyone has a personal brand. It's whether a case that you take control of it or you're happy to let other people control the narrative. Personally, I'm a little bit of a control freak and I don't like the idea of letting anyone else have control of that narrative and reputation. Now, of course, there is a bit of toing and froing in the sense of what they can say and what they can't say. But of course, when it comes to your personal brand, doing your best to control your own narrative is always a good idea, I personally find. So a lot of the questions that they had were during this discovery call. And of course, you can get your own discovery call at vcc.training. Find out all the details in the description. Essentially, they had a lot of questions about common mistakes that people make when they start their personal brand and how can they be avoided. I don't want to offend you, Tom. You seemed a bit paranoid in the sense of what possible mistakes could be made and how to avoid them. And I guess I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm just saying that is how the tone and essentially the direction of our conversation came to be. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you are wrong for being paranoid. It is okay. You are starting something new, especially for those of us who have not started businesses or those who have not taken on these larger than life projects. And again, these are all interpretations, but when taking control of your personal brand, especially for the first time, it can feel very daunting because there are so many unknowables. And a lot of people, and especially like myself, who are in the personal branding space, have gotten quite used to not knowing everything and having the unknowables. And honestly, feeling okay about it. Now, of course, that may not be the same for you, Tom, or for anyone else who is starting their personal branding journey. But here are some of the mistakes that people usually make and how I like to remedy them. So I've got 5 for you today. We're going to touch on trying to be for everyone, copying, pasting someone else's vibe, inconsistent posting or ghosting, talking only about yourself, and overthinking everything. Now, of course, these might seem like really basic ones, but I'm going to stress to you, these creep up in subtle ways, especially when you're starting your personal branding journey. So let's go. Oh, and before I ask, I did have Tom ask a couple of times, Zoe, what do you mean by personal branding journey? Essentially what I mean is when you are starting the path of taking control of your personal brand, putting, for a lot of people, it's like putting a logo to it or putting colors to it. But for me, it's also what I like to do with my clients is making sure that they break down who they're talking to, why they're talking to them in really clear language so they can use that for the rest of their marketing, which of course entails into our first point today. But when it comes to taking control of your personal brand, it's not just one thing. It's not just, hey, I got my logo, I got my colors, I got a basic breakdown sheet of two A4 pages worth of information about who I'm talking to and why I'm talking to them. Good, I'm done. I never have to touch this ever again, and I never have to update anything ever again. That's why it's a journey. You have to keep doing it and keep reiterating it. And as you not just make content, so I'm not talking just live streams, podcasts, articles, however you want to communicate with these people, I'm not talking just content. It also helps in the decisions that you end up making. For example, there's a lot of work that I have done early this year about essentially getting rid of a bunch of my products and services. Why? Because not necessarily that people were buying them, because the people were buying them. It was a case of that I didn't want the services and the products to represent me. I didn't enjoy doing them. And also I felt like I could serve people better because I knew who I was talking to. So in those moments, I was able to make these very big business decisions because I've taken the time to develop my personal branding journey. Good. Let's tie that tether up together and stop going on tangent, Zoe. We are in an episode. So as we like to do. So first one I'd like to touch on is trying to be for everyone. Especially when you are starting out, you can get the pitfalls or have the mentality. Now, of course, this is not necessarily for everyone, but a lot of people that I work with who are starting out on this branding exercise feel like they have to be for everyone. That they end up being, so the mistake is that they end up being super vague about like what they do, why they do it, and they're trying to appeal to everyone, because the idea of like pushing people out, or the idea of focusing in on the type of person that you want to work with, especially if they have not worked with anyone as of yet, can feel quite daunting. They feel like they're leaving money on the table. They feel like they're leaving energy and time. And if, say, for example, they make a mistake and like the people that they're trying to target are people who are never going to pay them what they're worth, then they feel like they've wasted a lot of money. That is okay. That is a reasonable stress to have. And when it comes to white flops, you end up saying a whole lot of nothing. And that is my concern when it comes to a lot of these energies and efforts that you take when personal branding or even business branding. Because if you are super vague, you say nothing, and no one understands what you stand for, no one honestly cares what you stand for, because you don't stand for anything. You're nothing. You're saying, what? And the best way to fix that, the best way to fix that vagueness, but not necessarily just that, to fix that mindset that you may have about needing to appeal to everyone because you're leaving money on the table. Now, of course, this could not just be money. This could be energy, resources, time. I want you to move that conk out of your head and think about getting clear on who you actually want to talk to, your ideal client, your audience, and even your past self. Because when you are starting this journey, you are not talking to yourself. You may be talking to a past version of yourself, but that is a different person. You are talking to an audience. This audience wants to connect. This audience wants to get their problem solved. This audience wants to inevitably give you money. So they need to know the reason why. And in turn, you need to have a really clear idea of who you're talking to, because this helps you on business direction. This helps you on marketing. This helps you on many major decisions that you're trying to do with your business. You're not trying to copy someone else. You are trying to figure out how you're trying to serve these people. And if these people are way too big of a group, because you're in your head, you're thinking, if I can only get like 1% or like 0.5% of people on board, I can make this business work. I can make this brand work. I can sell the product I need to, or I can meet commission, or again, whatever your goal is. In those times and moments, if you are unclear about who you're talking to, you are going to lose a lot of money, energy, time, and resources real fast. Why? Because you are shooting blanks all over the seam. Let me correct that, because that sounded a bit dirtier coming out of my mouth than it did in my head. You end up being like a shotgun. That, yes, you can hit the target with maybe one of those tiny little pellets that you're shooting, or you could spend that time getting a more direct aim and bigger bullet, and then when you hit, you actually make a bigger impact rather than just a slight flesh wound. That sounded a bit more violent, but hey, violence sells, sex doesn't. And yes, I am very sexy. Thank you for asking. The second thing that I alluded to just before was copying and pasting someone else's vibe. So a big mistake that I see a lot of people, especially when they're doing it on their own or they're DIYing their personal branding journey. And again, you are free to do whatever you like. I am happy to have a 15-minute complimentary free chat about just some next steps for you to take, because I want people to spend their time and energy efficiently when it comes to personal branding. And obviously video marketing is my shtick as the video confidence coach. Personal branding is a very large chunk of that. And the mistake I see people making is that they mimic someone that they admire a little bit too closely. And when I say they mimic, I mean that they start not just talking like them, using their words, their mannerisms, and sometimes even their accent. I mean that they start trying to copy everything that they do. But if you may notice that the people who are successful that you have come across are 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the future from where you are right now. Even if you've been in business or in branding, or if you have been growing yourself for however long you've been alive, people who are industry experts and leaders in their fields have worked their tuchuses off to get to that point. And it's not that you are not working it's not that you are not working your tuchus off. You are definitely doing that. The issue is that they have, usually by that point in their career, they have a team. And if they don't say they have a team, they definitely have a team. They have a bunch of processes and resources and systems in place that they have tweaked and honed over many, many years. You don't have that. And if you are someone who is starting out trying to build a personal brand and you are trying to mimic someone larger than you, it is going to fail because you are going to burn yourself out. Your resources are going to be spread too thin, and you are not going to be able to keep up that consistently over time. But not to mention, you won't be able to keep the energy up. You won't be able to make the money that you're trying to do. And if you are copying someone else, people, especially the people that you are trying to attract, remember that from point one, they can smell how inauthentic you are from a mile away. As humans, we can recognize patterns, and we can recognize when people are inauthentic or ungenuine. So in those moments, we go, thanks, and then block you. No thanks, leave you again. Or tell the algorithm, hey, don't recommend this person again. Why? Because you're disingenuous. So the way to fix that is, first of all, by, and I hate this sounds a bit guru-ish, but I want to have you stick with me here, is being able to take inspiration, sure, see what other people have done over time, and maybe even research a bit as to what they were doing in the past, as to where they were at your level. Now, it could be a case of they had money, they had support, they had connections, they had worked in the industry that they're thriving in for over 30 years. I digress. But for you to be able to both look in yourself and realize, okay, what is my own voice? What are my values? And what is my personality that I'm willing to put out there? Because again, that's what a personal brand is. It's not necessarily a true reflection of you. Now, of course, you're not lying to people. Hey, I'm like this. I talk like this. I dress like this. I am who I am in my personal brand. But my values come first. My audience comes first. And that is why I help them. And that is what controls my personal branding. So for you, instead of mimicking someone else, now of course you can take some ideas and tweak. You can look at ways that they're tackling things and maybe even try and do that yourself, but in a streamlined, faster, easier, cheaper way. And if not, is that a case of something that they did 20 years ago? Is that going to still work now? There's a high chance that it won't, but there's also a possibility that it will. You are allowed to research and pick parts of things that work with other people. Don't just take it wholesale. And when it comes to that burnout that inevitably comes from trying to be someone else and not having any clear direction as to who you exactly you're talking to, you inevitably come to number 3, which is inconsistent posting or ghosting. Now, I'm not talking about social media, I'm not talking just about social media. I am a fan of an omnipresent approach. You can post multiple places at once with the same piece of content. Why? Because you do not own rented land. The platforms that you're putting the stuff on, yes, you can grow an audience, and yes, you can get leads. Doesn't mean that they own your content and they don't own you, because it's usually most of the time they're not paying you. So in those moments, being able to understand when you are making this mistake or when you're about to make this mistake, which is essentially when every time you have a launch, something to sell, or when you are really enthusiastic and you burst out onto your website, your social media, your email list, billboards, any other platforms that you have, and then you do that really heavily for a week, and then you vanish for 3 months with no warning, with nothing, and people don't even know if you're still in business anymore. And the reason that it flops is because it looks like you're going on one date and then never calling back again. You're trying to have a relationship with your audience. Again, your specific audience. You're trying to have a relationship with them. And if you never call them back, how will they know that you exist? And also they'll just remember, oh, I remember that guy. Where did he go? Oh, she seemed nice. What happened to her? Oh, I remember them. I really liked what they had to say. I'm going to forget about them again. And that's in the rare occurrence that they actually remember you. Because if you are not repeatedly appearing or being consistent with your marketing efforts, they're going to forget about you. I experience that a lot in not just when I'm working with clients, but also when I'm working with myself. Now, of course, there are times where things happen where you don't post or where you don't utilize repurposed content. It's going to happen from time to time. But making sure that you forgive yourself and get back on the horse is the best thing to do going forward. Being consistent is not just about letting it go. It's about taking that time to get back on board and try again. So the best way to fix this issue of inconsistency or just burning out and ghosting your people completely is to pick a pace that you can actually stick to, even if it is just once a week. Usually anything more than once a week for, say, social media, I would not recommend, mainly just because the algorithms move so fast. Once a week is probably your bare minimum. For email lists, probably at the moment I'm experimenting with 3 times a week. Don't worry, it's okay. It's not overwhelming. It's not overbearing. Trust me. But for yourself, it may be just once every 2 weeks. For website updates, maybe doing it once every 2 weeks to once a month, just to make sure that you've got yourself covered in those moments where maybe life is getting a bit too much to you. And make sure you check out my podcast all about handling handling your business brand as well as your personal life in the one life that you have. Make sure you check out that episode in the description below. And it's also okay if that changes over time. I want to stress now that I have a couple of clients who get very worried when things maybe aren't going on time or things aren't tracking along like they should. That is okay. We've got an archive full of content. And if you do not have a library full of content, start building one. You will find itself so useful in the future where you just get burnt out, schedule a bunch of posts, give yourself some breathing room, and there you go. Well done, superstar. The fourth thing I want to talk about, and for a lot of people, this happens a lot, and Tom, not blaming you, but there was a little bit of this, was talking only about yourself. The mistake that people make, especially when starting in business, but also just in personal branding in general, is turning all your content into your personal journal. Is everything that you talk about is me, my experience. And the reason that it flops is because people care about more about themselves, of course, but people care about how you can help them, not your every thought. Now, of course, it's okay to have opinions. Opinions are good. And making sure you stick by those opinions is even better. And then if those opinions change, let people know, of course. But the reason why it rubs people the wrong way is, yes, you can mention, say, for example, maybe you have a past experience that has helped you grow and you found a good method to deal with that issue or problem that the people that you work with face. Awesome. Bring up the fact that you have experienced that and then talk about them. Talk about how you can help them. Like, say, for example, when it comes to examples, I make sure to bring in my clients. I don't mention them by name because, of course, NDAs and not wanting to give away people's personal details. No, except for you, Tom. You let me use your name. And I hope I haven't made you look too bad. I promise. And with those mistakes, it is understandable when you feel like you're talking about yourself a bit too much. And it can kind of come with the gig, because personal branding is your personal brand out there in the world. It can kind of come with the gig. But the way to fix that is to frame your stories, your messages, your thoughts, so your audience learns something from your experience. Yes, you may be talking about your story, what happened to you, your experience, but easily and quite quickly framing that to how it is a learning lesson for them, how it is an educational thing for them, how your solution helped you achieve how your solution helped fix your problem, and you can do the same for them. Or making sure that when you mention to people, hey, this is the problem that I experienced 10 years ago, things have changed, but the problem still remains. Here is how I want to fix it for you. Awesome. You have pivoted them at the center. Everything you do, business decisions, messages, ideas, thoughts, should have them at the center. If it has you at the center, you are doing it wrong. You are doing it for them. It may be your face, but it is their message. And the last point I want to get into today, I love that these community questions that I have here are supposed to be short, little like teaser things. They never are. I always go into too many tangents, so I apologize if I have strung you along and you are bored out of your mind. I'm here for you. The last mistake that people who start their personal branding journey tend to fall into, and this is something I honestly still struggle to this day, is overthinking everything. The mistake that you find yourself is spending hours editing one reel, one carousel, one piece of content, or rewriting your bio, your 250 characters, or even less in some cases, about 15 times because you want to get it perfect. Burnout is real. And burnout before you've even started or put things into action or have it be public is an even worse fate. And unfortunately, that does happen with me. It's still a lot. So even though this is a beginner mistake, honestly, it still happens with me. And the way that I have fixed this in my own self and my own knowledge and work is I have been thankful enough and grateful enough to be able to have a team around me who not just require deadlines, but require me to take action, to, even if it is messy and not exactly fixed and not exactly perfect, I have to get it out now because it was due. It is due now, get it out. And even though it is not perfect, you can tweak it later. You can fix it later. Things change and evolve. The content from when you started is going to be different now. The way that you market yourself is going to be different now because of things that you learn and you tweak through who you talk to. It is going to take time, but that is okay. Being able to push over that perfectionism, because again, at the end of the day, that's just stopping your progress. It's a way of obfuscating taking action. It's a way of avoiding any, not necessarily backlash, but any sort of responsibility, because if you haven't done it, well, no harm, no foul. You can't grow, you can't do anything, but you're still safe in that moment. To push through that mindset, and even a mindset that I even have to continue to deal with to this day, is pushing through that perfection to achieve the progress that you need. Hitting publish, learning what you can, and tweaking as you go is much better than taking no action at all. Or, in my case, and possibly in your case, Tom, as well, burning out, just thinking things before you even do things. You may not have a graphic designer. Cool, Canva exists. Templates exist. Oh, I don't have a video edit. The script exists. Like, there are tools that are made to be easier, exist. And in those events that you do not have a tool that is readily accessible to you, then reach out to someone like myself or someone maybe in your network or in, who had struggled with the same issue that you have or is currently struggling with the same issue you have. And working together can help you overcome that pressure that you've put on yourself and allow you to get some progress done. And I'm even at the moment of recording, and probably by the time this comes out, I've probably found someone. I'm looking for an accountability buddy for the rest of this year. And honestly, that's what my intention is, to have someone who is outside of me, who is outside of my influence, who we're going to check in once a week for half an hour, or maybe even like 20 minutes. And the idea is that we come to that meeting once a week to say, here is what I said I would do, here is what I've done, here's what I'm going to do next week. Cool. And the reason that this works, and I found this methodology works pretty well, is because there is someone outside of you who is expecting that action, expecting that progress. Very much like when we were in school, the teacher expects you to hand in your homework. The teacher expects your project to be done. And as an adult, unless there is monetary consequences, there's less of a chance you're going to do stuff, especially when growing your personal brand. Because if they can't see it, then I'm fine. You are not going to get anywhere if you don't take action. So in those moments where you're overthinking, reach out to people who can help you take action or progress. Even if it is just a family member or a friend or someone who maybe doesn't have a stake in that end result or product, but they can see how much stress you're under and they can see when you're able to achieve that action, that stress lifts up, they're going to be happy to be that accountability buddy for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and thank you to Tom for sticking around. Hopefully this hasn't embarrassed you too much. And if you are like Tom, make sure you check out my website on vcc.training, where I have a bunch of tools in the toolbox, but also I have plenty of paid and free resources for you to be able to start and grow, take action on your personal branding journey. I also have a 15-minute chat that you can chat with me for free, though you do have to jump through a couple of hoops, because of course we don't want to have any bots or anyone taking too much of your time. I want to be able to serve you as we can. So thank you everyone for your time and for me gasbagging this episode. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Or you seeing me, you hearing me. I don't have a tagline just yet to finish off this episode. Thank you. Thank you for listening or watching Unboring Your Brand. You can find detailed show notes with tools, offers, and episode transcriptions. Just click the first link in the description or go to vcc.training/podcast. Get involved and ask me anything about personal branding, video strategy, or just a friendly small business chat via my email, g'day@vcc.training. That is gday@vcc.training. The Video Confidence Coach would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I record my podcast. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Look forward to me chatting at you next week, superstars.